You know what's strange? Some of the calmest looking people you'll ever meet are also some of the most braced. Not braced for disaster exactly, braced for the moment the good thing ends. They get the promotion and immediately think about how it could be taken away. They fall in love and quietly wait for the other person to change their mind. They finally relax on a Sunday, and a small voice asks, "What am I forgetting?" They get good news over the phone, and their first instinct isn't joy, it's a quiet scan of what the catch might be. Even a compliment can trigger it, a flicker of suspicion instead of warmth, as if kindness needs to be double-checked before it can be trusted. And here's the psychological paradox at the heart of this. The very habit that makes someone prepared, responsible, and hard to blindside is the same habit that quietly steals their ability to feel joy. Today, we're going to explore the psychology of people who can't fully enjoy good things, what's actually happening in their mind, why it develops, and what it really means about who they are. Let's start with what researchers actually call this pattern. Psychologists refer to it as dysphoric anticipation, sometimes described more casually as waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's a tendency for the mind to treat positive moments as temporary and suspicious rather than safe. Studies out of UCLA and the University of Toronto have consistently shown that people who do this aren't pessimists by nature. In many cases, they're doing it because their brain is exceptionally good at threat forecasting. It's always scanning, always checking the exits, always looking for the catch. The problem isn't negativity. It's that the system never gets a signal that says you can stand down now. Neurologically, this comes down to a structure you've probably heard of, the amygdala. This is the part of your brain responsible for detecting threat and triggering the body's alarm response. In people who brace against good moments, this region tends to stay active even when nothing is actually wrong. Meanwhile, the mind starts pairing positive emotion itself with an incoming cost, so joy gets quietly rewired as a warning sign instead of a reward. The result is a person who's essentially never off duty, always auditing the good news for the bad news hiding inside it. Even the body joins in. Heart rate can stay slightly elevated during moments that are supposed to feel calm. Muscles stay a little tense during a celebration. Breathing stays shallow during a hug that should feel safe. The nervous system is technically at a party it doesn't trust is real. What's fascinating is that this pattern usually doesn't start in adulthood. For a large number of these people, the habit begins in childhood or adolescence, often in environments where good moments were unreliable. When a child grows up in a household where a happy evening could flip into chaos without warning, where a parent's good mood in the morning didn't guarantee a good mood by dinner, or where celebrating too openly once invited disappointment or punishment, the young brain learns a very logical survival strategy. Don't get too attached to this feeling, stay ready. If you can brace early, maybe the fall won't hurt as much. Sometimes it isn't even something dramatic. Sometimes it's simply growing up around a parent who was anxious about money, who treated every good week as borrowed time before the next bad one. The child absorbs that rhythm without ever being told to. Bracing against joy in this light isn't a flaw. It's an adaptation, a very smart nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Now, here's something interesting to pause on. Not all of this bracing looks the same. Psychologists generally identify two distinct types. The first is protective anticipation, where the person stays mildly aware that things can change, which keeps them grounded and realistic. This version, when balanced, can be a genuine strength. It's linked to better emotional regulation and fewer painful surprises. Someone with a healthy amount of this might simply keep an emergency fund even when things are going well, or communicate clearly in a relationship instead of assuming it will last forever on its own. The second type is joy suppression, a more passive, often distressing pattern of flinching away from good feelings before they've even fully arrived. This is where the habit starts to cost people, in relationships that never feel fully safe no matter how loyal the other person is, in achievements that never feel fully earned no matter how hard they worked for them, in a kind of quiet numbness that builds from constantly discounting the present. It can show up as deflecting a compliment before it lands, changing the subject when things are going too well, or feeling more comfortable during a crisis than during a calm week. Because at least the crisis matches what the nervous system expects. The tricky thing is that most people oscillate between both. A single moment of healthy caution can slide almost invisibly into refusing to feel anything good at all. And because this feels like protection, Because the mind is actively working to keep you safe, it can be genuinely difficult to notice when you've crossed from staying grounded to shutting joy out entirely. Cognitive psychologists describe this as the illusion of control through withholding. The mind feels like it's preventing pain, but it's actually just preventing happiness. And this is where cortisol becomes part of the picture. Your brain releases small amounts of stress hormone during anticipatory bracing, even when there's no real threat present. So when someone catches themselves feeling good and immediately scans for what could go wrong, the brain is partially being rewarded for staying alert, not for actually staying safe. This is why telling someone to just enjoy the moment is neurologically naive. The brain has a chemical incentive to keep bracing. So what does this pattern actually reveal about a person? Here's what the research suggests, and it might not be what you expect. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who reported higher fear of positive emotion also scored significantly higher on measures of resilience under real hardship, the ability to function and keep going when things genuinely fall apart. They are, on average, more prepared, less likely to be blindsided, and more attuned to the fragile, temporary nature of things most people take for granted. The very engine that makes it hard for them to enjoy good things is also what makes them remarkably steady when bad things actually happen. But steadiness without softness is exhausting. And that's the tension these people live with. They can survive almost anything. And yet the better life gets, the harder it becomes to simply let it feel good. This shows up in ordinary places more than people realize. At work, it can look like someone who gets a glowing performance review and immediately starts preparing for the version of themselves that will disappoint next quarter. In friendships, it can look like someone who has a wonderful night out and spends the drive home replaying every sentence, searching for the one moment they said too much. In parenting, it can look like watching your child laugh and, instead of just watching, quietly bracing for the moment they'll be hurt by the world. None of this is dramatic on the outside. It rarely looks like sadness. It usually just looks like someone who is a little too composed, a little too ready, a little too unwilling to fully exhale. Because here's the quiet truth that psychology keeps circling back to. Safety isn't something you can think your way into by staying braced forever. Some things have to be trusted, received, or allowed, not defended against. Therapists who work with this pattern often focus not on forcing positivity, but on changing the relationship to the bracing itself. Acceptance and commitment therapy, for example, teaches a practice of noticing the urge to brace without obeying it, of feeling the flinch and staying in the good moment anyway. It's a subtle but genuinely powerful shift. Instead of "this feels too good to be true and I need to prepare for the crash," the reframe becomes "my brain is generating a warning right now, and I don't have to act on it." One pulls you out of the moment, the other lets you stay in it a little longer. Some therapists also encourage something deceptively simple, staying in a good feeling for just 10 extra seconds before the mind is allowed to move on to what could go wrong. It sounds small, but for a nervous system that has never practiced lingering in safety, 10 seconds can feel like relearning a language. What all of this points to is something that matters far beyond the individual. Bracing against good things is not a personality defect. It is not evidence of ingratitude or pessimism. It is at its core a highly protective mind that learned to stay guarded in a world that once felt unsafe to relax in. The challenge isn't to stop noticing risk entirely. The challenge is to teach that mind, gently and with patience, that this good thing right here is allowed to just be good. And maybe that's the most human thing about all of this. We all carry protective instincts shaped by moments we didn't choose. Understanding them doesn't erase them, but it does change how much power they have over the good things still ahead of us.